Hi, I'm Loretta and this is my sister, Sharon. We are founders of the plant-based retreat, The Detox Barn, and we're also a comedy double act. I know, funny vegans. Shoot me now.
9 years ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease and got myself better using a plant-based diet. Since then, I've just fallen in love with living well.
I retrained as a natural vegan chef, and each week we'll be interviewing experts in the wellness industry, as well as sharing the highs and lows of trying to live well as single mums living together with our 2 kids. How well have we lived this week? We were on our morning walk with our funky coffee this morning, and we were chatting about being passive aggressive because we've been staying at our parents' house for the last 3 weeks. Don't ask why. Long story, but anyway. And I think our mum is the queen of passive aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally just walk in a room within an instant. You can offend her, and you ain't done jack shit.
No, like even in the morning, I'd just be sat there. You know, when you just sort of like
just waking up slowly.
Morning, Loretta.
Good morning, Loretta. No,
and basically, it means
you haven't acknowledged
you
my
haven't
presence.
greeted me. You know, just a nice little morning, mum, would be nice. And then it puts me on the back foot. So then I go, morning, mum. Happy now. We've all greeted each other.
Or she'll do this. She'll go, nah, I need you for an hour. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do really feel sorry for older people and tech.
Yeah.
But I need you now for an hour. Now, I need full concentration. Not on your phone, WhatsApping, whipping, or whatever else you're doing on that phone. I need 100%. If you can't commit. And she does all this. And it actually makes me want to say no.
No, I can't do anything for you.
No, so then I sort of go, I haven't got an hour right now. Leave it, forget to ask.
I wish I hadn't asked. No, leave it. I don't want anyone to help me ever again.
No, every time I ask.
Too much of a drain on all of you.
I'm going to get rid of the phone. What's the point? I can't work it. No,
I'm throwing the phone away now. I'm going to throw it over the wall.
I feel like I just
haven't got an hour right now. But I will definitely help you.
No, leave it.
Too much. I wish I hadn't asked.
Too much, just too much. Forget it. I wish I hadn't asked.
You'll all be happy when I'm dead and buried. You'll all be smiling then. You'll have enough time then, won't you?
There'll be no phone to fix then, will there?
Yeah, and then you'll be pleased.
We don't want you dead, Mum. I just don't have an hour right now. You never have an hour. And I don't want both of you. I want one of you. I don't want that. I can cope with one of you. Both of you together. I don't want it.
Not giving each other the eyes. I've got a notification. Will you look at it? I don't know what it is. Please tell me what it is. What is it? I think it's Facebook.
Facebook's blowing up. I don't know. It goes ting, ting, ting. I don't know what it is. Everybody keeps sending me photos. Millions of photos. I'm like going,
From Facebook,
at these photos. And all it is notifying when someone like posts, she's getting a notification if she knows them. I'm like going, but that's what Facebook is, Mum. It's people share photos. Well, they're sending them to me. They're not sending them to you. They're posting on Facebook.
Yeah, so she is the queen of passive aggressive, and it's.
But you can be a bit passive aggressive. Well, what Loretta does, she does no word passive aggressive. If she comes in and say the kitchen isn't done, she starts angrily cleaning.
Yeah.
No, it's all right, I just get this done quickly. Banging around the kitchen like a demon.
I remember working with someone and she was absolutely gorgeous, like a model. You know when you feel like the real ugly one.
Yeah.
No,
I've never had that.
Anyway, I remember we'd go running together and she'd say things like, your little legs keep up, Loretta. And you kind of go, I don't know how to take that. And I kind of go, I don't know. They just do. It's kind of like you feel like you're being constantly gaslit.
Those little digs.
I remember going for dinner with her and I always felt like I didn't quite know whether she was having a go or not. So I suppose that's passive aggressive, isn't it? And she'd say, at the time I was vegetarian, and she would say, is your sister vegetarian? And I'd go, yeah, she's actually vegetarian. Do you do everything the sister does?
Sweet.
And I kind of go, no, I don't.
Cut to us living together, working together, bringing up our kids together.
Yeah.
I also had one guy that I worked with, he's really funny. And he said to me, we took a selfie together. And I looked quite nice in the selfie. And he was like, gosh, it's really funny because you look so much better in photos than you do in real life. Because that's a nightmare, actually, when you think about it. Because even at castings, they'd get the photo, oh, yeah, looking forward to seeing her. And then you walk through the door and they're like, are you? And that actually really hurt me because I know I am quite photogenic. And I was like, I know sometimes I take a good photo, but I'm like, maybe I don't look like that in real life.
But that's actually really horrible to turn around to say to someone you look better in photos.
It was a nightmare for online dating if that was the case.
Yeah, and also I remember you phoning me up, Sharon. You were actually
quite upset because I didn't know how to banter back. I was like going, me, ugly in real life.
But a dream.
I was trying to laugh along with it, but I was like, this is actually quite cruel.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's passive aggressive or that's actually just aggressive.
Yeah, I think it's weird with passive aggressiveness because you don't know. It's like being gaslit, isn't it? You're kind of going, are they being rude or is it me? Am I being oversensitive? And most of the time they are actually just being rude, aren't they?
Carter once said to me, he said, out of all the school moms, he was kind of stroking my face at the time, so it was quite sweet. And but he was like, you've got lines here. And then he followed it up with, out of all the school mums, he said, you look the oldest. And then he said to me, all my mates' mums are turning 40. Yeah. All of them.
No, France has done that. I wish you had me when you were younger. You know, you're going to be so old.
So old. You're going to die by the time.
Fair us. Your mum's lived till you were 50 and you're going to be dead when I'm 50. I'm like, no, I'm not. I mean, I've got the metabolic age of 25-year-old.
You haven't actually. 36. Right.
Yeah, that was my bones. I haven't had the full test yet. I'm going to get it done.
Well, it wasn't just your bones. It's your muscle mass on that thing that we stepped on.
Yeah, but I've been increasing it since then. I must have come down.
Right. This week
yes, we're talking about age. I got overexcited then.
We're talking to the incredible Sandra Parsons. We are leaving the season on absolute high. Her book is amazing. I have been literally shouting to anyone that will listen, all my retreats, even GPs that I run with. I'm like, get this in your surgery because it's so simple. It's non-judgmental. It can reverse your biological age to 20. She is 63, I think.
She looks amazing. She was also just so lovely.
You've got to tune in for this one.
This episode is sponsored by us, Gavin Sisters, and our very first product, Funky Coffee. It's triple certified.
Paid a fortune to sponsor this.
Yeah, we're paying ourselves. Yeah. It's triple certified organic Arabica coffee and it's boosted with potent adaptogens. The health benefits are many, but don't just take our word for it.
Yeah, instead of us banging on about it, we decided to test our coffee out with our guests at the Detox Barn and take a listen to what they have to say.
They're not getting paid.
No one's getting paid here. Let's be honest.
So we've just served funky coffee at the Detox Barn. What did everybody think?
Coffee. Delicious. Amazing. And it's not bitter and it tastes like real coffee.
I was very sceptical, but absolutely it was stunning.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. And did you find, because you had it yesterday, did you find you had a crash afterwards or did you feel like you had sustained energy?
Sustained, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They want to buy shares in the company. Okay, thanks everybody.
For our listeners, you can get 10% off. Go to gavinsisters.co.uk and use the code podcast at checkout. Today on the podcast, we're thrilled to welcome Sandra Parsons, an acclaimed journalist and author of the groundbreaking book Ageless, which Sharon and I loved and keep getting on people's nerves quoting from it. In Ageless, she shares her personal story with an exploration of the latest longevity science, revealing cutting-edge breakthroughs that could extend our health span. Sandra is living proof of her book's power. By following the steps she outlines, she has actually reversed her biological age to 20. If you've ever questioned whether it's truly possible to slow the clock or what it really means to age well, this episode is for you. Sandra Parsons, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. As I said, we absolutely loved the book, and we've been chatting before we said action all about it and all about our stories. I thought what would be nice to start with is what made you look into aging? What started it, and what was life like before you implemented all the stuff you talk about in the book?
The thing that made me start looking into it was an injury that I sustained when I was in my mid-40s. So until then, I'd never thought about aging. I'd never thought about health particularly. I'd been quite lucky. I was, relatively healthy with no effort at all on my part. I was very stressed. I had a very stressful job. And I smoked and I drank and I ate pretty bad, rubbish food. But miraculously, I was sort of more or less quite well. Until I started running, which my sister-in-law had suggested, because she's a keen runner and she thought it might reduce my stress. I was working really long hours at the time and my children were very young and it was all just very kind of full on. So she said, why don't you just try running to the church and back? And I said, I don't think I'll be able to do it. And she said, no, go on, give it a go. Anyway, I tried. I couldn't even get to the end of the road, could not run to the end of the road. And I was so appalled by that my pride sort of kicked in and I thought, no, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to get to that church and back if it kills me. Anyway, after about 3 weeks, I did get to the church and back. And although it didn't kill me, it did actually really injure my back. I was in absolute agony and I didn't really know why. And it turned out that I had a curvature on my spine, a scoliosis that I hadn't realised. Not a particularly severe one, but nevertheless it was there. And it meant that without good core strength, my back was basically an accident waiting to happen. And the running had just been too much for it. So I had to have an MRI and it showed this prolapse disc, L5S1, right at the sort of bottom of your back. And it was so painful that my whole back went into spasm and that my entire right leg went completely numb all the way down to the toes. And for about a week, I could barely walk. I had to use a stick or hang on to someone. I was just literally hobbling like an old woman. And I thought, it was really born upon me for the first time that this must be how it felt to be really old. And it was a real wake-up call, and I thought, I really, really don't want to be like this. And I went first of all to a woman called Sarah Key, who's an osteopath. I didn't realise at the time, but she turns out to have treated both Charles and Camilla. I didn't know that, but anyway,
Yeah.
she was brilliant. And she basically made me realise that I had to do very gentle back bends, which seems completely counterintuitive. Once my back had come out of spasm and the really acute phase had worn off. So she got me kind of mobile again and able to sort of contemplate strengthening my core, which was the next step. So then I started going to Pilates. And I still remember after that first session of Pilates, I woke up the next morning, I was in absolute agony. I mean, all my muscles were screaming. I could barely move. Anyway, but I thought I can't be hobbling like an old woman. So I made myself go back. And after a while, I noticed that my sort of body shape started to change. I noticed that I was feeling better. I had fewer migraines. I used to get migraines all the time. And although I still got them, I got them less. And so I started to think, okay, maybe there is something in this. And I then started going to yoga as well, Bikram yoga. And I was suddenly sort of exercising a lot and feeling really good and my body shape changed. And then I started to think about nutrition, because when you look at yourself in a mirror doing Pilates or yoga, you realise what's wrong with your body in the sense of if it doesn't look the way you imagine it might look. I'd never really looked at my body before. I'd sort of looked at the clothes I put on it, but I hadn't really contemplated what shape it was in, if you see what I mean. And I actually then went to Weight Watchers and lost about a stone. And that's got me thinking about food in a way I'd never properly thought about it before. And I then started really reading up on all this stuff. And then it became a kind of obsession, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And
us.
I read everything and I became addicted to exercise, no doubt about it. And I really changed the way I eat. And it's sort of like a snowball effect. It's like compound interest when you're saving. It's just cumulative. And I just felt better and better and better and better and better. And the more I read about it, the more I did. And to the point where I, just realised that actually I now knew a lot about this stuff and a lot of other people don't. And so then I wanted to communicate it in a simple way, because I am very boring about it, and I'm evangelical about it now, and I just want everyone to know this stuff and to understand how much they can do to improve their lives and their health.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what's amazing about the book, because you read it and you realise actually just really small steps over time can make a massive difference. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be Mo Farah, you don't have to be an ultra marathon runner. Actually, just walking helps, and that's what I loved about the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also had that, everything that you talk about in the book, it makes you feel like, oh, so glad I do that. And I'm so glad I share that message as well, because very similar, we've got a lot in common. We became obsessed the more we did. It started with giving up alcohol and then it snowballed. But we became obsessed. And even recently, I said to Loretta, we're running a retreat and we do workshops at our retreat. And we basically, I suppose we share sort of our top tips for living a really good life. And a lot of it is a lot of what you've put in your book. So we've got loads in common. But I said to Loretta the other day, I was like, I've actually never, this is a bit weird, I've actually never got bored of this. Like, I'm still listening to podcasts.
Yes.
And like, I must be so boring because
Yeah.
we have also become obsessed. But I think if you're going to get addicted to anything, maybe it's a good thing to be addicted to, because once you implement all the stuff that you share in your book, your life simply gets better.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it gets better.
It really does. And I think especially if, I think most people feel stressed,
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Most people feel that they should be eating better, but they don't really know how to, and it's quicker to just order a takeaway. I think a lot of people are frightened of exercise. I certainly was. I'd never done any exercise. And so they just shy away from it and think they'll be no good at it or they won't be able to do it. I think most people, well, in fact, I know the figures show that 1/3 of people in Britain don't sleep enough. And that they're worried about that, but they don't know how they can make it better. And this chronic stress and everything, it all builds up, and then people think, well, it's too late now, there's nothing I can do about it, I'll just have to sort of put up with it. And
Yeah.
Let's have another drink, and I'd rather live short and have fun than live long
Yeah.
and be boring. And I just passionately want to tell people and show people that that's not true.
Yeah.
And that actually you can do these really simple steps. My book has 3 simple steps over 3 weeks, because that's all it takes to start the change.
Yeah.
And anyone can do it. It is never too late.
Yeah.
I really want to sort of get that across to
Yeah.
people. I think I mentioned in the book this amazing man in Ireland called Richard Morgan. And he's 94 and he's a 4-time world champion indoor rower. And he didn't start exercising at all in any way until he was 73.
Yeah.
And yet his VO2 max is off the scale, his maximum heart rate is off the scale. Obviously he's probably exceptional, but the fact is he started at 73. It is never too late.
Yeah.
I really, really, really want people to understand that.
And I think that's, I think, obviously Loretta and I, we run retreats, and we get a lot of people on our retreats that are fed up, they're stressed, they're sick of not being able to change. And I think I'm definitely going to be recommending your book, because the narrative that happens to people once you hit past 35 even is, I've always been this way, I've never been an exercise person, I always put on weight when I look at food, I have no discipline. And then you start having these narratives, and then your patterns of behaviour follow the narrative.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved about your book, is that it's not intimidating. It's not saying you've got to do this and you've got to do that and you've got to have a morning routine and you've got to do this. It's just little things that you can do that is accumulative over time.
Yeah.
So let's get into all the hacks. First of all, I just wanted to ask, when you got the result back,
Yes.
were you like whooping? Were you like, oh my God,
You
this is
shoving
amazing?
that in your husband's face.
Yeah. Or your kid's face?
I was so staggered, actually,
Yeah.
because I took it kind of out of idle curiosity. I'd read about it in a magazine, and then I remembered it. I thought, oh yeah, I'll do that. And when I opened the email, it said, congratulations, Sandra, your biological age is 20. I literally almost fell off the chair. I just couldn't believe it.
And just tell our listeners, how old are you? Do you mind sharing how old you are?
I'm 63.
Yeah, 63.
Now. So I was actually I just turned 61 when I got that first result. And I did it again 18 months later.
Yeah. Younger?
You're now 70.
No. Still 20, but actually they don't go lower than 20.
No, they don't.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
But the funny thing is that as part of the fee that you pay and everything, you get a consultation once you've got the result, and they take you through the results. It's all very, very detailed, and it goes into, you know, lots and lots and lots of scientific detail. But anyway, so you have a phone call with a scientist, and the first thing I said to him was, you know, are you quite sure you haven't made a mistake? And he was actually quite offended. And he said, no, I assure you, we have not made a mistake. You know, this is very good science.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite a signal moment. Yeah.
So let's talk about everything that contributed to that biological age and what you feel is really important if people want to, I think, live well and disease-free, because that's what it's about, isn't it? It's not about reaching 100. It's about reaching 100, but still living a great life.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, just to elaborate on that just a little bit, I think what people don't realise is that what really matters is your health span.
Yeah.
And at the moment, the average health span in this country is 61, which is absolutely nothing.
That's awful.
Yes, that's from the Office of National Statistics. So what that means is that the average person can expect to get to 61, and then they can start suffering from chronic disease. Yeah. And these are the diseases that are really associated with aging. And if we address aging, we address the diseases. But they are things like diabetes, dementia, cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart disease, high blood pressure, and even certain cancers.
Cancers, I was going to say as well, yeah.
Anyway, so the goal is that you live as long as you can, as healthily as possible, and that you massively increase your lifespan, so that when you do finally die, you might just sort of become frail for a month and then die. Whereas at the moment, you know, average age for women to die, lifespan for women is 84 and 80 for men. That means from 61 till 84 or 80, you're slowly declining. You know, you can't play with your grandchildren, you certainly can't go for a run, you can't carry heavy bags, you puff up the stairs, you know, it's just a terrible way to be. So anyway, so for the book, I've read all these books and I interviewed quite a lot of the scientists, and the three recommendations are, number one is that you have to eat less. You have to eat less, you have to move more, and you have to rest better. So to eat less, the really interesting thing is that for decades, scientists have known that caloric restriction is the best way to improve human longevity. But actually not just humans, every single animal as well. They've done so many experiments, from fruit flies to rhesus monkeys, and they all, in fact, the monkeys lived to 120 equivalent in human years. But all those experiments were reducing your calories by 30%, and that's actually quite a lot. So it's a third less practically every day. And the biggest trial there's ever been done into this actually was called the calorie trial. And it took about 200 healthy volunteers. They were aged 21 to 50. They weren't obese, but they weren't very skinny either. And the intention was that for 2 years, they would cut their calories by 25%. So they would change nothing else about their diets. They kept them on their usual diet, whatever it was, but they had to eat 25% fewer calories. And over the course of that 2 years, none of them managed to cut their calories by as much as 25%. The average they managed was 11.9%. So what they then found when they analysed these results was incredible, because they had reduced their risk of every single one of those chronic diseases. They had also lost just over a stone in weight, 7.5 kilograms in weight. They had improved their mood, they had improved their libido, and even more remarkably than any of that perhaps, for every chronological year they'd lived, they had aged biologically by just 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And bear in mind, they hadn't even addressed how they slept or whether they exercised. This was just from eating 11.9% less. So the first thing is to eat between 10 and 12% less every single day. And in the book, I suggest two really good ways of doing that. And one is to eat more fibre. And the other is to do time-restricted eating, but a really simple form of it, just overnight, 12-hour fast. because it's very, very important that you don't skip breakfast. Lots of studies show that. And all you really have to do, I say all, it's not that easy, but just do not snack after your evening meal. So
That's
just have,
quite simple, isn't it?
have nothing after your evening meal until breakfast the next morning. So if you eat at 7 or 8 p.m, don't eat again until 7 or 8 a.m. or
Would
later.
you include, if you were to have a coffee the next day, so say you stop eating at 6 and then you'd have, so say you stopped eating at 7
Yes.
and then you'd have a coffee at 6 a.m. but with milk in it.
Yes.
Is that equivalent to eating?
I mean, strictly speaking, it
Yes,
is. I
yeah.
suppose if it was only a little bit of milk,
But if
it
it's a
wouldn't
big
really
sort of
matter.
cappuccino,
The
Yeah.
idea is to go 12 hours
Yeah.
without. You can drink water, you can drink black tea or coffee, but
Nothing,
nothing
Yeah.
else. And so the thing I think that's revolutionary is increasing your fibre. And I know you are both proponents of a plant-based diet, but it really is a game changer, eating more fibre, because not only is it good for you in so many ways, it's the most anti-inflammatory food there is for a start, and inflammation underpins every chronic disease. But it also provides you with plant protein, and because of the beans and the nuts. And I interviewed, among others, Professor Volta Longo, who's a sort of world's leading expert, I would say, on human fasting and longevity. And among the many sort of brilliant things he's researched is that high protein, particularly from animals, is very bad for you in a number of ways. So he studied this tribe in Ecuador, or group of people anyway in Ecuador, who are deficient in something called a human growth hormone receptor. And it means they're very, very small. But it also means that they are basically impervious to cancer. They don't get cancer and they don't get diabetes, even though they smoke a lot and they drink quite a lot and they don't eat particularly healthily.
Is this because of the lack of that growth
Yes,
hormone?
it's because it's a sort of, it's a weird genetic sort of mutation that they have.
Yeah.
But anyway, animal protein, high protein in particular from animal protein, encourages this human growth receptor gene. So that's one reason why you shouldn't eat animal protein, or very little. And the other reason is that animal protein encourages an aging gene pathway called TOR-SP6, I think its name is. Can't quite remember its proper name. But anyway, what you want to do is restrict that particular protein, not mTOR, that's it. You want to restrict it, you don't want to encourage it. And again, you're encouraging it if you eat a high protein diet. So you want to eat a sort of sufficient protein, but lowish protein diet, where most of your protein comes from plants and a little bit from fish. Until you get to 65 or 70, and all the research and all the figures then show, interestingly, that at that age you need to really start increasing your protein, and you need to start getting it from animals, because
really? From animals?
You definitely need a high protein diet from those ages, and you can start having more from animals because your body can't process protein very efficiently as you reach that age.
Right.
And he's really interesting, because he's Italian. He's based in LA, but he is Italian. And you've heard about the blue zones, these. So there's a well-known blue zone in Sardinia, but there are some blue zones in southern Italy where he's from as well, in Calabria. So his parents come from this very small town or village, town, with only 2,000 people in it, called Malocchio. And at any one time in Malocchio, there are 5 or 6 centenarians. I think the oldest was 114. Yeah. And so he interviewed them all, and they were all basically leading what had been a sort of peasant lifestyle. They were farming, they were working the land. It's very hilly there as well. So that when they were walking, they were always walking up and down, up and down. They were poor, so they couldn't afford to really eat meat. So they would have a little bit of chicken now and then, and a little bit of fish now and then, and very, very little meat. And most of their protein came from beans, which they would have with pasta. and vegetables that they grew themselves. So they were essentially walking a lot, working hard, and eating a plant-based diet. And, you know, the thing, I don't know, you've probably come to find this as well, but, you know, I never even, not so much that I didn't like beans, I never even thought about beans. But in fact, you know, they can be absolutely delicious. And they are a kind of game changer. You know, and once you start thinking that way, it changes everything. And as he points out, you can still have pasta.
Exactly. So you can still have that.
But just
nice
add chickpeas to it, you know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that whole thing about, you know, the blue zones and, you know, what they're doing to live longer. You know, it's funny when, you know, Loretta and I sort of, sometimes we joke and go like, because we were sort of freelancers and actors and we're like, we're never going to be able to retire. Do you know what I mean? There's no funds. We haven't thought this through. But the more research I do, the more I realise that actually being active and working is so good for you. Like when we run retreats, and they can be very physical, especially we do 2 a year in Portugal, and they're a 5-day retreat, and it's you're on your feet all day, you're cooking, you're serving, you're hosting, and you go to bed. I don't think many people have this anymore. You go to bed physically tired. Like
it's a lovely feeling.
It's the best feeling.
It's the best. That your feet are pounding.
You cannot wait.
You can't wait. And you go to sleep like that as well. And then you get up, you know, it is tiring, but it's like as if we are built for that. You know, and we don't do it anymore. We're on computers where we're not physical.
No, it's so true. And I suppose, especially because of my sort of professional background, you know, I'm a journalist. We sit down most of the day. We're hunched over computers. But it's not just journalists. It's lawyers, it's bankers, you know, it's a lot of office workers. And your stress goes through the roof. And you don't have time even really to exercise. You know, maybe you might, you know, if you're lucky, you might get a half-hour run in. But that's if you're sort of super disciplined and can make yourself leave the office. You know, your whole life revolves around this sort of sitting down and working at a computer and producing more and more and more and getting more and more stressed, and you forget how to have fun. And I really know how that feels, and you start to think, well, I can't do it anyway. You know, it's as much as you can do just to sort of survive. You're in survival mode the entire time. What you're not in is creative mode. You're not in fun mode. You're not in relaxed mode. You're not allowing your brain to wander. You're not allowing your body to get physically tired. That really is the best feeling in the world when you get into bed exhausted, so physically exhausted.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it helps everything. Your mental health, you haven't got time to be anxious.
No, exactly.
It's not, you don't have capacity to go, oh, I'm worried about this. You just conk out. So for people like you've just described, how do they, which is a reality for a lot of people, how do they implement some of the stuff that you've shared in your book?
Yes, and I think that's the trick, you see, because if you're like that, you sort of think you need to change everything all at once. You know, this is a disaster, so I must change my entire life now. And that is not the way to do it, because it just can't be done. And then, but if that's your mindset, because everything is a kind of story, you were saying earlier about the narrative, you know, it's a story you tell yourself. So you start to try and change everything all at once, and then you fail, and then you say, well, I knew I couldn't do it anyway, and that's game over before you've even begun. So the way to do it is to make very, very small changes, bit by bit by bit. And that's what I've attempted to show with this 3-week reset. So if we take food, for example, which is quite an easy one for people. So my suggestion is you start by 5 mornings a week having a fibre-rich breakfast. So, and I give lots of examples in the book of what constitutes a fibre-rich breakfast. It's quite, you know, you don't have to have beans at all for breakfast, as anyone listening panicking. You know, you can have scrambled eggs with spinach and tomatoes on whole grain bread, for example, or you can have raspberries and nuts and yogurt, or you can have wholemeal bread with peanut butter and a pear. You know. So that's one way you can start. And then at the end of a week, if you've done that, you've got a little win. You know, it possibly is achievable for you to have had 5 fibre-rich breakfasts. And then maybe you can start, 2 days a week, you do an overnight fast. 2 days a week, you don't eat anything in between your evening meal and breakfast the next day.
Yeah.
And then you've got another little win.
Yeah.
And the thing to do is to build up gradually. So when it comes to exercise, for example, I do give a 3-week exercise plan and also a sort of pre-exercise test that you can take to sort of assess your fitness level, because I really want to emphasize you don't have to be thin or young or have done any exercise at all. The whole point is you can do this from wherever you are. And even if you do this little pre-exercise thing and you're not quite fit enough to start the plan, then there's a plan to get you to that level to start the plan. But anyway, one of the many amazing scientists I interviewed was this chap, Professor Bill Krause, who's a cardiologist at Duke in North Carolina. And he's been involved with that calorie trial that I mentioned right from the get-go. But he's also evangelical about exercise. I mean, totally evangelical. Makes me look, like a sort of kindergarten. Yeah. And so it's his research paper that shows that actually you only have to walk 2,000 steps a day, that's a mile a day, briskly, to reduce your chances of dying by a third.
Wow.
Your chance of dying from any cause by a third. So, anyone can walk.
Yeah, they can.
Briskly for 20 minutes, which is essentially what we're talking about. And so that's in addition, he says, to what they call activities of daily living, ADL, which is just what you do in your daily life. You get up, you walk from the bedroom to the bathroom, you walk downstairs to the kitchen, you walk out to your car, you walk from your car to somewhere else.
So you don't include that in your 2,000.
Yeah.
That is separate.
No.
Okay.
So they calculate that you're doing 5,000 steps a day just in these activities of daily living. Mm-hmm. And obviously that doesn't work if you never move off your couch. So you have to be a little bit determined about that. But if you take into account that the average person moving about in an average way probably does 5,000 steps a day, on top of that you have to do 2,000 steps a day of brisk walking. And by brisk they mean enough so that you can still talk, but you might find it difficult to sing.
Okay.
You've got to be just slightly out of breath. So it's not
like as if you're running for walking for
Well,
you're trying to get a bus.
Yes,
and
you're walking
late.
quickly.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
So you're not just having a kind of easy stroll.
Brisk, yeah.
You are actively walking as fast as you can. It's all relative. My fast walk might be someone else's slow walk, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. The point is you get slightly out of breath. That's all your body needs. I mean, the body is this most incredible machine. I'm in awe of our bodies. It's just everything we need we already have. It sounds such a cliche, but it's really true. It's all there inside us. We just have to activate it and stop screwing it up.
But also
what's self-destruct, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what's really lovely to hear is the fact that you said up until 45 you smoked, you drank,
yes,
you did everything that you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And yet look how remarkable the body is at healing and recovering and actually rebooting itself.
Yeah. And the more I kind of read and find out about that, the more impressive it is, really. Your body can take quite a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
And God knows, I'm sure we give it that abuse. But equally, it can recover as long as you just give it the opportunity to. And it's incredibly intelligent, the body. It knows far more than our kind of thinking minds do.
Yeah.
We've literally just got to sort of set it on the path.
Yeah.
So eat 10% less, eat more fibre and fast overnight. Exercise more. You should be aiming to move more every single day. And for exercise, what you need is both cardio and resistance. So the sort of scary thing, I think, is that from the age of 60, you can lose 1% of your muscle mass a year and 1% of your leg strength and 3 to 4% of your kind of muscle power.
Yeah.
So if you take that on, it means that by the age of 80, you could have lost 20% of your muscle mass and up to 80% of your muscle power, and that's sort of terrifying. But it doesn't have to be that way, so that's where you need to do resistance training, which we think of classically as involving weights, but it doesn't have to be. You can use your body weight for resistance training. A push-up is resistance training. So
planks and stuff.
Plank is resistance, wall sit is resistance.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, is that people don't realise. They think that resistance is you have to go to a gym.
No, you don't have to.
And I mean, Sharon and I went to the gym the other day and,
We hate the gym.
and made ourselves do weights. I hate the gym. It was aircon. I was freezing.
Yes.
I'm so
destroying.
intimidated.
Yes.
There's music blaring and I'm like,
Yes.
why am I doing this? I'd rather be outside
Yes.
doing
That's
a
what we
plank.
said afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's do a YouTube video and get up. We've got bands because
Yes.
we know we're pretty good at running and walking and moving,
Yes.
but I'm really bad at resistance. And,
Yes.
and actually, we did a biological age thing, but it wasn't sophisticated. You just sort of went on a scale, didn't you?
Yeah, and they just
did a scan. We were at a
Yes.
cycle show and they did a scan, and I mean, I was really pleased. I think mine was like 34 or something, but and I was delighted. But they did show me that like my muscle mass on my legs was pretty good because I run a lot.
Yes.
But on my arms,
Yes.
it really was not equal.
Well, women especially tend to
Yeah.
have very bad upper body strength. And there's one reason why I say in the book, that it's not enough to go to yoga.
Yeah.
And I say that as someone who qualified as a yoga teacher. But, because we don't have that upper body strength, so there are some postures in yoga that require a lot of upper body strength. But if you don't have it in the first place, you are not going to get it.
Yeah.
You'd have to be fanatical about yoga.
Yeah.
And in fact, which it won't surprise you to learn I was. And I really got into something called Ashtanga yoga for a long time and qualified to teach that actually. But I actually really injured my shoulder in the end because I didn't have the upper body strength you needed for it. So it's much, much better to do resistance training, whether that's with weights or but you have to target those muscles.
Yeah.
Men tend to have more upper body strength just naturally, and we don't.
And also, when I was telling Sandra before we started rolling, but I obviously had an autoimmune disease and I lost a lot of muscle. I mean, thankfully, I didn't lose too much. I healed, I bounced back pretty well, but I lost a lot of my upper arm strength. So at times I couldn't dress myself. Ooh. So I couldn't actually lift my arms up. Like that's how weak they became.
Gosh.
And as I said, I've managed to kind of build back up, but I haven't done any resistance just from living, like picking up my child and picking up my bags.
Yes.
I had quite a very young child when I was sick, and picking up shopping bags and stuff. I couldn't go to the shops on my own because I wouldn't be able to pick up the bag. Like that's how weak they were.
Yes.
So I have a propensity to have, obviously, from that as well. But when I was in the gym the other day, I'm literally going, it's literally on 5, and I'm literally going, oh, I'm actually shaking, and I'm like, I've got to do something about this. So because the messaging now, it's in your book, but it's becoming everywhere.
Yes.
That resistance is really important.
Yes. I actually think, I mean, for you, actually, I think you probably do need weights.
Yeah, I think I do need weights. Yeah.
And I credit, it was so interesting because I couldn't work out why, despite the fact that I was now really quite fit and doing all this yoga and running and Pilates, why I still had very, very tense, painful shoulders. And eventually I read something somewhere that said, when your shoulders are incredibly tense and tight, the muscle is actually very, very weak.
Oh, mine are.
Because it's just tensed up the whole time. It feels like it's rock hard, but that's the tension. It's not strong in any way.
Okay.
And then I started doing proper upper body work.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing was my shoulder pain just practically disappeared. Yeah. Incredible. So I really think for women in particular, it's really worth focusing on, even though it's very, very hard.
No, it's becoming a priority now because running is something that it just happens because I love it. I don't love it's the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
I so know what
but
you mean.
I have to kind of prioritize that now.
You're a better person after running.
Yes.
always,
Yes.
always a better person.
I know
yeah.
I've never done a run and felt worse
No.
after it.
No.
You just,
You always
know,
go, I'm so glad I did that.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So yeah. So just something that struck me when you were talking earlier about the kind of wonder of the body, and you talk about it a little bit in the book about autophagy
Yes.
and what that is and what that can do and how that can sort of heal the body.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that, because you've actually obviously interviewed the
Yes.
godfather of autophagy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But yeah, tell us a bit about that and what it actually is and how we can access it.
Yes. So autophagy is what happens when your body is in a fasting state. And essentially, it means that once the body is receiving no energy from outside, because you're not feeding it, after a while, it realizes that it has to get its energy from somewhere. And so it literally starts eating itself. And autophagy comes from these Greek words, autos, which is self, and phagomai, which is eating.
Yeah.
So, but because it's so clever, it starts by eating the damaged parts of its own cells. So it recognizes which cells are damaged, and those are the bits that it starts eating to get its energy. And it also, at the same time, sort of shuts down all unnecessary functions. So anything that your body actually doesn't need for its immediate survival, that function is closed down, just to conserve energy. And what Professor Valtalongo, who is the godfather of this, says is that your body doesn't actually go into full-blown autophagy until 5 days of fasting. And at that point, so if you starve it for 5 days and you then start to give it food, it will go into absolute overdrive, sort of renewing itself, renewing all the cells. He likens it to sort of knocking down all the bad parts of an old building, all the rotten parts of an old building, and building them again from scratch. And that's what your body is doing.
It's amazing.
So, this is how you can... So his research, which is completely fascinating, he invented something called the fasting mimicking diet, which I talk about in the book, where you're tricking the body into thinking that it's fasting, because it used to be thought that you could only, the way to properly fast was only drink water and have nothing to eat. Yeah. But actually that's very difficult to do and really doesn't suit a lot of people. Yeah. I know it didn't suit.
Yeah, I tried it a couple of times and yeah.
So what he came up with was something called the fasting mimicking diet, and that tricks the body into thinking it's starving, that it's fasting, whereas in fact it's getting all the macronutrients it needs. You're getting about 800 calories a day, and it's quite high fat, but it's good fat, it's saturated fat, it's very low carbohydrate, very low sugar, and a sort of adequate amount of protein from plants. And the reason he invented that was so that if you do that about 3 times a year, that's all you need if you're in otherwise relatively good health, to really sort of get your body into prime condition. But if you are in poor health, what he has found, so his latest trial, they have actually found that with this fasting mimicking diet, but given for longer and for over shorter periods of time, they can regenerate kidneys. People's kidneys. They did it in rats, and now they can do it in people.
From doing 5 days of fasting?
I think they're doing more. More. But these are all really clinically controlled studies in hospital conditions and everything. People with cancer who are undergoing chemotherapy, it's totally counterintuitive, but if they fast before the chemotherapy, they're much less sick. And feel much better more quickly afterwards. People with autoimmune diseases like you, Sharon, can sort of turn them around. It's completely amazing what the body can do. And the thing about autophagy is that so you have to fast for 5 days or do his fasting mimicking diet for 5 days to really get into it. But it's cumulative. So doing that 12-hour overnight fast, that promotes this process is going on all the time. The body will do it whenever it can to a certain point, just not to that full-blown point. Also, when you exercise, exactly the same thing. The muscles will start repairing and renewing themselves. So that it's this back to this whole thing of taking small steps consistently.
Yeah.
You've just got to keep at it. To sort of really completely repair your body. I honestly don't think there's a limit to what the body can do if we only give it a chance. And we haven't even got onto meditation and sleep.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. So do you think, like, with you know, the fasting and other things that, because obviously maybe, you know, there's big pharma out there as well, isn't there? That's kind of maybe not wanting some of these things to go away.
I'm sure not wanting.
Yeah. So like there hasn't been big trials. Like what's possible? Like maybe lots of diseases can be reversed with using some of these principles. I know did you interview David Sinclair as well?
No, I didn't actually. I tried to.
His stuff's really interesting as well.
Yes. So no, I read his book. I tried to interview him and I never got to him.
Yeah.
But he too is an advocate for fasting, and he's he's absolutely I mean, both he and Volta Longo, who know each other very well, I discovered when I interviewed Longo, are completely sure that it's entirely possible even now to live to 120.
Really?
In good health. But that's, as far as they're concerned, that's just the start. Although they both, they make the point. So David Sinclair is a geneticist at Harvard. So his point is that only 20% of our longevity is down to our genes. Well, it's not just his point, but he's very eminent. So the rest is how we live, and it's entirely possible to live to 120 if you change your lifestyle. Which doesn't mean to say that something might not come and carry you off tomorrow, because there are some things you just can't protect against. You know, you could get a neuroblastoma, you could get an aneurysm. All you can do, though, is really sort of maximise your chances. You know, so outside of one of those really quite rare events, you know, these chronic diseases are much more prevalent, much more common. And they both say the same thing, which is that the thing to address is aging. The biggest risk factor for Alzheimer's, dementia, a lot of cancers, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, the biggest risk factor is actually aging. I think I say this in the book. This is Professor Longo told me that, you know, a woman in her 20s, her risk of breast cancer is about 1 in 2,000. By the time she's 70, it's about 1 in 20. You're basically 100 times more likely to get cancer when you're 70 than you are when you're in your 20s. And it's aging that's, you know, so that's what we really need to be addressing to sort of deal with all these things. But of course, it's not in big pharma's interest. It's not in the food industry's interest. So that probably explains quite a lot.
I suppose the only good thing is that we were talking about alcohol, and that the biggest shift in, you know, the younger generations is that they're not drinking. And it's a shift that's happened naturally without government intervention. So people, you know, there's hundreds of podcasts now. You know, there's the Zoe app, all about wellness.
Yes.
People, this is becoming, you know, a thirst
accessible.
for people.
Yes.
They're asking the questions.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So I think changes are happening.
Yes.
Although I do think that, you know, we surround ourselves with like-minded people.
Yeah.
We listen to the same podcast. We're probably a very small percentage, so we think everyone thinks and feels like
no, but
us.
you even said, wasn't the Zoe podcast like
Yeah, it was
number
really,
one?
really popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, even running our retreats now, people are turning up to our retreats with Zoe apps and all of this kind of stuff. Whereas before, we would talk about gut health and we were witches. You know,
It used to be called like leaky gut back in the day when I was sick. That's why I didn't even hear microbiome. That word wasn't even around.
Yes.
No.
It was. I went to my consultant and I said, "Is it possible? Can you test me for a leaky gut?" And I thought I needed a psychiatrist. You know, but it's that word is normal now.
Yes,
Your,
it is.
Gut health is your immune system is in your gut.
Yes.
People know this stuff now.
Yes.
So that's quite exciting.
They are. Yes, I agree, but I think it's still. You know, you need a certain level of income actually to be doing Zoe, for example.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I sort of think if you earn not very much money and you have to work really long hours to get that money, and your life is really tough and food is really expensive and you're struggling to feed your kids and you'd love to take them on holiday, but you know you actually can't afford it. you know, who can blame you if you then go and have a drink?
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
I completely get that.
Yeah.
So, but you know, again, it's growing, and that can only be a good thing, you know. And
But
I mean, and hopefully it's changing. It will eventually change. I mean, I know you said your husband is a doctor, and we've interviewed quite a few doctors on this podcast, of that medicine will turn its spotlight on being reactive to being proactive.
Yes.
I think that'd be such a big game changer. At the moment, doctors, they just have to react to what's in front of them. They don't have time to say, have you thought about,
No,
you know what I mean?
They don't have time, exactly. And they're overwhelmed. That's, you know, they're overwhelmed with the patients that they have got.
Well, interesting. I went running this morning, and it hit my run club. One of the ladies is actually a GP, and I actually said, shared with her your book, because I think it's the perfect book for a GP to recommend to anyone that's interested, a patient, in being able to become 10% healthy. What do I have? What responsibility can I take to improve my health? And so I really, because I know she's into, you know, she's open-minded.
Yes.
And I sort of said, I think it's a really good book for you to read yourself and then recommend to patients, because it's so not judgmental. You're not intimidated. You're like, you don't need money. You're not saying go and do the Volta Longo, which is 180 quid.
No.
You know, you can walk for 20 minutes. That's free. You can fast. That's free.
Yes.
So you don't feel like this isn't for I can't access this club because I don't have the money. And I would love to see GPs like having, you know, copies of your book and books like it in reception.
That's such a good idea, actually. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, just to kind of empower people. It's education.
I think that word empower is such a good one. And I mean, it made me the little things in the book, like, for example, you know, I think a lot of people don't realise that it's so much better for you to eat an orange than to drink an orange juice.
Yeah.
You know, and who can blame someone if they think by having an orange juice they're doing themselves good, whereas in fact they're just giving themselves a massive blood sugar spike. Whereas if you eat the orange, because it's got fibre in it, and fibre slows down the process of blood glucose, then, you know, you're doing yourself good. It's little things like that that can set people, you know, that people don't know about. There's another really good one, I think, in the book. If you drink 2 glasses of water 30 minutes before you eat, you'll eat 20% less.
Yeah, that's a really good hack.
You know, these are really sort of simple things that, and every small change that you make empowers you, and it's all about that. It's all about taking charge and feeling that you can, rather than feeling stressed out, worn out, tired out. And thinking, what's the point? You know, I'll never be able to do it anyway.
But also, even the little things like, you know, if I walk quickly for 20 minutes, that's all I need to do. So the choice of like, oh, I'm just going to get the bus rather than walk that stop. You know what you're doing and why, and actually you don't need to go for a 45-minute run to get the benefits.
Exactly. That's
so then you're more likely to do it.
Yes.
Because you're like, it's only 20 minutes.
Yes.
I do that fast. I've ticked that box.
Yes.
You know.
Let's talk about, we haven't touched on meditation, and we shared with you that we're not very good at it, or it goes down the bottom of our list when we're busy. So I'll do my run. You know, I'll eat my nice healthy breakfast, but I haven't got time to meditate. So why should we be implementing meditation, and why is it important?
So I was exactly the same as you, and I've tried meditating for years and years and years, done it on and off, but it was sort of the first thing to go, because there isn't time to do all this stuff. So really probably within the last year, I've completely turned around on that. And now I prioritise it above everything else. And I think that's because when you hit the sweet spot with it, you enter this sort of feeling of complete kind of calm. It's more than calm. It's sort of contentment. And you realise that everything is absolutely fine. And once that is addictive, once you've felt that once, or maybe a few times, you want to feel it again and again and again. It's like everything else. It's like once you start being able to run any kind of distance, or, you know, you want more of that. I think the human mind always wants more. So the thing with meditation, what I realised is it is not a matter of sitting in the lotus position, feeling very uncomfortable, noticing how much your back hurts or your knee hurts or whatever, while you try to sort of get into this Zen-like state. And the way into it, I believe, is guided meditations. There are so many of them on YouTube. They're all free. And although I do pay to have no ads myself on YouTube, so that is important actually if it's a meditation. So maybe not that free, but anyway. And what I've come to realise is, all you have to do is have a straight spine. So you can sit on a chair with both feet on the ground and your spine straight. You can sit cross-legged on a sofa, supporting your back. You can lie down, as long as you're not... The only problem with lying down is if you're going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it in the morning and you've had enough sleep, which, okay, most people haven't, but if you have, you can also do it lying down. So that's number one, because I think what puts people off almost immediately is they sit cross-legged and everything starts to hurt. So number one is find a comfortable position with your spine straight. Number two is put some headphones on and either listen to a guided meditation or just play very, very soft, calming music that you like, but that doesn't resonate with you. So not something sentimental or anything like that, just some calming music. Because all these things help you. All you're trying to do with meditation is not get engaged with your thoughts. So it's not that you're trying to stop thinking, you're just not engaging with the thoughts. And this is why guided meditation is very helpful, because there's a voice constantly saying stuff to you, and so you can listen to the voice. And occasionally you might get a distracting thought gets in the way, but it's much easier to ignore it because you're listening to the voice. So I don't know. It was actually, particularly when I was writing this book, actually, I used to go to an Airbnb for a week at a time to write. And every morning I got into doing I think actually that's probably what really got me going. And I just began to notice that I would see this sort of deep indigo blue colour all the time. And I would sort of get lost in it. And it was unbelievably pleasant. And when I came out of it, I only started doing 10 or 15 minutes at first. I just felt great. And then I would go and do my run or whatever. And it began to dawn on me that this was so important to feeling calm, and that the precursor to everything, to feeling good. If you can feel calm, I quote in the book Deepak Chopra, who at this sort of £17,000 for 5 days longevity retreat, someone asked him what his best advice was, and he said, let go of the drama. And actually, I just think letting go, and that's what meditation enables you to do, just to let go. It's slightly different from mindfulness, which is happening all the time, being mindful all the time. I just think you can really feel this letting go in meditation, and you start to realise that you don't actually need anything else, that you really are enough, that, your body can do this stuff, you can do this stuff. It's very, very empowering, while at the same time being calming. And in fact, actually, now I think about it, I think I probably started doing affirmations. I was rereading Louise Hay. Actually, and maybe I started doing those, now I come to think about it, and I find that quite calming. And then I thought maybe guided meditation is the way, because I'd never done guided meditation. I'd always just sat there on my own with my own head. And that was much, much more difficult. So
what type of guided meditations do you do? You send me them.
Okay, well, I've tried loads. And at the moment, the one I'm really into, there are two. One is Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, I like him.
Who wrote The Power of Now. And the other is Joe Dispenza.
Oh, yeah,
yes, I like him as
well. We do a nighttime one of his sometimes.
Yeah, I do a nighttime one of his.
Yes. So the thing I've noticed with the Joe Dispenza is that a lot of them are AI generated. Most of them aren't actually his actual voice.
Really?
But I don't think it matters.
No.
Because the content is so good.
I think we've got one, is the Joe Dispenza one that we listen to. It's like, you are going to be really successful. You
Yes.
deserve success.
Well, when it's really him, he alters his voice.
Oh.
And he's done a lot of research into it. And there's a reason. I didn't quite
is
know what
there?
it is,
Okay.
but there's a reason for that, for the weird voice
yeah,
and the
it
weird
goes
noise.
really, yeah.
Yes,
No,
which
I
I'm-
do like his one. It has religious connotations to it, but it's really nice to go to bed to. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
reminding
he
me to do
tries
that.
not to.
Yeah.
If it's really him,
It might not be
he's
him
very
then.
big on science is the contemporary
Yeah.
language of mysticism.
Yeah.
He tries to avoid any religious connotation
Yeah.
precisely because, you know, that religion is off-putting to someone
Yeah.
from that religion. So he
Yeah.
tries to avoid it.
Okay.
Anyway, for me, that's been a game changer, these
Okay.
guided meditations, because, you know, for want of a better word, I can really get into the zone.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more you want to be in that zone.
Yeah.
And it is massively empowering because you realise that everything becomes doable. Everything becomes much less of a drama. You just feel much more relaxed about everything.
Yeah.
I do think this is helped by the fact that my children are no longer young, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good mantra. Let go of the drama.
Yes.
Because
Disengage
sometimes
from it,
you
yeah.
realise that actually I don't need to do this.
No,
you know?
you really
Well,
don't.
the biggest lesson that I ever learned is, you know, I'm divorced and I had a very tricky marriage. But when I stopped engaging,
Yes.
like it didn't matter if it was fair or right or who's right.
Yes.
When I decided not to engage
Yes.
anymore, that is when I found peace.
Yes. Yes.
And it was all in my own power all along.
Yes.
And like, sometimes I could get wrapped up in it. And even you were like going, are you not going to reply to that? And
Yes.
I'm like, no,
No.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I've replied to this
All right, Guru Sharon.
No, I've replied to this in different versions. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done it
Repeating
20
it,
times.
so I've done it, and I
Yeah.
never get a good result
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
All I do is ruin my own day.
Yeah.
So, but it takes experience to learn that.
I
doesn't
think
it?
it's such a hard thing to
Yeah.
learn, and I'm only just touching the surface of it, really. But it is really true that the only person you can change is yourself. But it's equally true that once you change yourself, other people change in relationship to you,
Yeah.
because you are different with them,
Yeah.
and they then become different with you.
Yeah.
And it can be that they become so different to you that they don't want to engage with you anymore.
Yeah.
So they naturally, you
Sort of
naturally
stop.
let
The
them go.
dramas,
They just sort of drift
yeah.
away.
It's so true.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
You come to
Yeah.
realise that's fine. And I think you interviewed Ellen Langer, didn't you?
Yeah.
I listened to that, and I think she was saying, but I've heard it before, 90% of the bad stuff you imagine that's going to happen when we're stressing actually never happens.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And then the 10% of stuff that does happen, you can deal with, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just make our lives so much more difficult. We make our lives difficult for our bodies by putting rubbish into them and not moving, and we make life difficult for our heads and our emotions.
Yeah.
By procrastinating.
Yes, and by sort of endlessly going over and over and over.
Like even the other day, I was saying to you, it might have even been yesterday, and I just felt tired yesterday. I was like, I've got to get on the NMN, and I just felt tired. I was like, I feel really tired today, and I feel, and I was like, I'm not being very productive, I'm like, you're really hard on yourself.
Yes.
Just
so
let
true.
yourself be a bit tired. That's
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
you're just so hard on yourself. And I
Yes.
think we all are. We live in this kind of
Yes,
world of going, we're not
sort of-
doing enough.
We're martinets to ourselves, aren't we? Which you wouldn't be to someone you loved. You
No.
know,
No.
you'd say, "Oh, it's okay.
Just,
Don't
you've had
worry.
a
You know,
busy
have a good night's sleep."
Yeah, exactly.
It will
You
all
have
seem better
to.
in the morning,
I
but we
know.
don't say it to ourselves.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And it was, I woke up much better this morning.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
we're over time. Should we finish with a bit of sleep?
Yes,
Yeah?
yeah.
So
Yes.
yes, tell us about, I love sleep.
I love
Yes.
it. I mean,
Yes, the best
when
thing ever.
when I went through insomnia, I said to Sharon, I'd rather die than not sleep.
Yes.
And I was being
Not that
serious.
she's dramatic.
Yes.
Not
but
No, totally with you.
Just like
so
awful.
I relished all of your stuff on sleep.
Yes.
So yeah, share all your wisdom about sleep.
So, sleep, it qualifies as insomnia if you have it more than 3 times a week for longer than 30 minutes at a time when you can't sleep for longer than 3 months. So that's when it becomes insomnia. Up until then, you're just
Excuse
having
me.
difficulty sleeping. But anyway, it's very easily solvable. This is the amazing thing. It's one of the most amazing discoveries I think I found. So in a way, it doesn't really matter what started you're not being able to sleep. Because after a while, the chap I spoke to, Dr. Michael Grandner at the University of Arizona, who runs their sleep clinic, he likened it to pushing a ball down a hill. After a while, that ball gains so much momentum rolling down the hill that it actually doesn't matter what the push was. It's irrelevant. You know, the ball is going, come what may. So the push that made you sleepless might be that you were worried about something. It might be that your baby woke you up. It might be that you had hot flushes because you were menopausal. After a while, it doesn't really matter what the cause was. And it's not about addressing the cause anymore. Maybe it was pain, you know, maybe you had an injury. So obviously you've got to deal with the immediate cause. But after a while, you go into what they call conditioned arousal, where your brain starts to associate, even before it gets into bed, it's thinking, I won't be able to go to sleep. And then you're in real trouble. So the number one goal, first of all, is what they call stimulus control. You have to make sure that your brain associates getting into bed equals sleep. End of story. So it's not getting into bed equals looking through my phone, watching something on YouTube, watching a film, listening to a podcast, you know, chatting to a friend. No, getting into bed equals going to sleep. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is time-restricted sleeping. So you only get into bed when you're really, 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 really tired. And he gave such a brilliant analogy, I thought, to this. He said you wouldn't sit down at the dining table to eat if you weren't feeling hungry. So why would you get into bed to go to sleep if you're not feeling sleepy? So he was very reassuring that, you know, if we hadn't been able to be flexible about coping with insufficient sleep, we would all have died out. The human race would have died out long ago. So although sleep is very good for you and it's very bad not to have enough, you know, we can survive quite a long time with insufficient sleep. So don't panic. So first of all, you teach your brain that getting into bed means going to sleep because you don't do anything else in there. And then second, you work out how long it is that you're managing to sleep in any one stretch. And then you only allow yourself that amount of time in bed. So if you work out that you're only getting 5 hours sleep a night and you have to get up at 7 o'clock every morning, then you do not get into bed until 2 a.m.
Oh my God.
No matter how difficult that is. And then once you've managed to sleep through, however long that takes for you to achieve those 5 hours, then you can add on another 15 minutes. So then you could go to bed at 1:45. And when you've managed that for a few days, you can add on another 15 minutes and then you could go to bed at 1:30. And kind of on until you reach the right time. And it's the same sort of thing if you wake up in the middle of the night, which is the thing that I was doing. I would sort of wake up at 3 a.m. and not be able to get back to sleep. So he then says, okay, in that case, if after about 25 minutes you haven't gone back to sleep, you get out of bed, you go to another room altogether, you do something quite calming, not something stimulating, and you definitely shouldn't do any work. So you can craft, or you can watch something very calming, not a thriller, or, you know, read something soothing. But or you do a bit of yoga, but don't think, right, I'll just get ahead on tomorrow's podcast notes, you know. And then the same thing, you only get back into bed when you're really, really, really sleepy, no matter how long that takes. And then you get up at the same time every morning, no matter what, no matter how tired you are. You don't go to bed earlier and you don't go to get up later. So that's
for those that
quite
are really
sort of
struggling.
straightforward. And then there are lots of things you can do. So that, and I've seen the papers on this, that has, in his clinic, 90% success rate.
Amazing.
And works as well as or better than any sleep medication that you can take.
That's
and
really
it's
good to know for those
really
people that are
quite
really
straightforward.
struggling. Just in time, I think we've had a knock on the window. I'm going to wrap things up.
Okay.
Just one last thing. What would be if you had to choose one thing, you could only do one thing, what would it be?
That's so hard.
That is really hard. I asked you the same question, but what would it be?
Oh my Lord. I think, I mean, I want to say Exercise.
Yeah, that was my response.
Because I will just say quickly, this guy I interviewed, Steve Harridge, who's the co-director of aging research at King's, when I told him my biological age, he said immediately, so you do a lot of exercise.
Right.
And it really annoys him that people put food above exercise because
Okay.
he thinks they're equal billing.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm going to go for exercise is because it makes you feel so good.
Yeah. So there's
And
double
once
whammy.
once you're feeling good, you can start eating 10% less. You can start eating more fibre.
Yeah.
You'll find it easier to sleep.
Yeah.
So although
Has
for
such a
most
big knock-on
people
effect,
it
doesn't
might be the hardest thing, I do think bang for buck, it probably has the most benefits.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra.
thank
That's
you.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, we'll
Really
put all the
amazing.
notes in the podcast.
Oh, thank
And
you.
your book obviously is out. It's ageless. And if people can people reach out to you, or do you have a website? Or is it just all
Oh
in
yeah,
the book?
well no, I am on Instagram actually.
Okay.
That's a very, very newbie on Instagram, and it's called at Age Less the Method.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. That
Thank
was
you.
fab.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You've been listening to the Gavin Sisters Wellness Show. Don't forget, if you like the episode, share it with your friends, follow us, subscribe. It helps with the algorithms, doesn't it, Sharon?
Yes, we're really
don't
bad
really-
at doing
we don't
this.
know what algorithms
We're really
are.
bad at begging
Yes.
at the end. But yeah, if you like it, please do share.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.